Delhi, we have Delhi, maximum people from Delhi. Amazing. Again, Ghaziabad, great. Delhi once again. Everybody, please. UP, hearty welcome from our end. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you. Jharkhand, this is amazing. Wow. Okay, I think we have more people joining us. And with this, we're going to begin. Greetings of the day to distinguished panelists and participants who have made an effort to take some time out of their daily schedule to be here with us today. I, Akshara Nair, President, Student Council 2020 of Ahlcon International School, will be your moderator for the day. And I welcome you all to the day one of the SDG Mega Marathon 2020, a two-day event being organized by Ahlcon International School, New Delhi, India. Today's webinar will be focused on how COVID-19 can be the great reset towards global sustainability. September 18th to 26th is considered to be a global week to act for SDGs. I would also like to highlight that the 75th session of the UN General Assembly had begun from the 15th of September in spite of the challenges due to COVID-19 and ends today on the 19th of September. Dear audience, today we have the privilege of having amongst us great minds from various domains who have been extensively working towards incorporating SDGs in their respective fields of expertise. I'm immensely grateful to welcome our eminent speakers. Thank you. To keep the webinar interactive from the side of the audience, we request you all to put in your questions in the QA box available right below, and those will be addressed in the last segment of the webinar. We request you all to kindly maintain the decorum of the QA box. At Ahlcon International School, SDGs are considered to be the DNA within each student and teacher. We have collaborated over the years with various organizations, including UNICEF and UNODC, and are currently working with Council for Global Citizenship Education under the umbrella of Global Citizenship Foundation, with the complete involvement of all the stakeholders working toward the attainment of global goals. Without any further ado, let us commence with the webinar by starting with the introduction of the panelists for the day. It is an honor to introduce Ms. Gail Davis, who creates solutions and innovations for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, social and global issues. She works to empower the voices of not only the people who are making a difference, but also the voices impacted by social and global issues faced daily. Ms. Gail has also co-founded the Creators 2030 UNSDGs Arts Initiative. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Gail on the behalf of Ahlcon International. Thank you for giving the school the opportunity to represent themselves and their work for SDGs on various international platforms. Thank you. Now, I would like to introduce a seasoned educator. With over 20 years of experience in school administration, career counseling, and teaching in a repertoire of various curricula, IBDP, Cambridge IGCSE, A-Levels, Cambridge Pathways, and Indian National Curriculum. Mrs. Geeta Jayant is also the principal of Legacy School, Bangalore, India. Welcome, ma'am. Now, I would like to introduce Mr. Sanjay Yadav, Principal, Ahlcon International School. Mr. Sanjay has always introduced himself as a student, and that tells about his journey as a learner and mentor. Having associated with Indian Space Research Organization, he finds it a parallel journey with the children, as he was personally blessed and inspired by none other than Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. He has been actively involved in the development of subject matter with NCRT, National Council of Educational Research and Training, exhibitions and model making, implementing, mentoring, and monitoring of CBSE procedures and training program. Welcome, sir. Our fourth panelist, who is known for being a public advocacy specialist, with a keen interest in human rights, SDGs, and regional security, we have with us Mr. Samarth Pathak, who is the Communications Officer and Focal Point Education for Justice Initiative, Regional Office for South Asia, UNODC. He is currently associated with the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. I would also like to add here that UNODC had collaborated with Ahlcon International School in the month of April this year for the Lockdown Learners series, and Mr. Samad spearheaded the initiative with the students and teachers. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to you're welcome. Now, I would like to introduce the next panelist, Dr. Ashok Kumar Pandey, presently Director of Ahlcon Group of Schools and Chairperson, Council for Global Citizenship Education. He has been working in the education sector for the last 30 years. Dr. Ashok Pandey has been working extensively in the building of a foundation of a proper education system, which incorporates and prioritizes SDGs and global citizenship education. Having introduced our distinguished panels today, I'm sure everyone would agree that we can look forward to an enriching and thought provoking webinar today. I would now open the floor for the opening remarks by each panelist, starting with Ms. Gail Davis. The floor is yours, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. I hope this morning finds everyone quite well. Um, my name is Gail Davis Carter, and we do a lot of work around the Sustainable Development Goals and the importance of those goals living in the lives of each person. One of the things that we find at the Creators 2030, and one of the reasons we love the Ahlcon School so much, and what it represents, is how do we actually learn to live the Sustainable Development Goals? Most people have it as a concept, and some people have not heard of it at all. But it's the actual foundation upon which we awaken in our lives every day. So we at the Creators 2030 and our actual sister initiative, the Listen Give Initiative, found ways in which to integrate the Sustainable Development Goals into the lives of everyone by the ways in which we eat, our health, ways in which we ensure that we all have a quality education, a quality of life. So for me, the Sustainable Development Goals are the most important things in which we live by. And it's such a pleasure to be on this call to really talk about those goals and how one can really begin to institute that into their lives, into the fact of the fabric of how we eat, how we grow our food, the importance of where our food comes from, and things of that nature, and how we can use this the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to solve everyday global and social issues, even societal issues, in which we all find ourselves during this unfortunate pandemic. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. The most important aspect that I really appreciate about your initiative is that it covers a lot many of the professions. It gives more better platform to a lot many professions, such as musicians, artists, and that's just great. I wish the best for you and the initiative in the future. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Now, thank you. Coming to Mrs. Geeta Jayant, ma'am, please go ahead with your opening remark.
Could you see my screen? Sorry, I'm so sorry. I think there's a glitch here.
No problem, ma'am. We were able to see your screen.
You
We had
can.
shared it.
Can you see my
We
screen?
could. Not currently,
No.
though. Just a while back, just a
Okay.
minute back, we could see it.
Sorry. I'll
Okay,
just,
ma'am.
yeah.
Totally fine. Please take your time.
Yeah, it's fine now. Geeta, we can see your screen. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. It's visible.
Right. So good evening. I'm Geeta here from Bangalore. We are on the other segment, thousands of kilometers away from Bangalore, from Delhi. But there's one commonality. When I met Dr. Pandey a few months ago, I saw, okay, I mean, there's so much of commonality between what Ahlcon does and what Legacy does down south in India. So like Ahlcon, we have also embedded the global goals into our vision, our mission, our culture, and all actions, what we do in our school. So if you see my little kids, the Montessori kids onwards, till grade 12, SDG is part of our curriculum. Where you will see, I mean, the Montessori kids, the moment they come in, they're learning the vocabulary, the Montessori vocabulary. Along with that, they are understanding and learning the UNSDG vocabulary as well. So we also like how you have the SDG Fest. We have a GP Fest, which means the Global Perspective Fest. So in that, you see lots of these kids from kindergarten till grade 12. You have once a year, you have a fest, which class-wise they contribute to, and they embed some SDGs and make a promotion about it. So you'll see the kindergarten kids, you will see grade 3 kids working on their Green Diwali option. So again, when we come up to the senior classes, you will see that our children have been again adopting the SDG goals for climate change. We've also, I think, past 5 years, we have had children adopting a lake. Bangalore is known for very notorious lakes, if you have heard in the news, always very polluted. So our children adopted a lake, which is about 6.5 kilometers from our school. And what they have done is they every year once they raise funds through a community bicycle ride, and through that fund they have completely changed the the look and feel of the lake. They have created a lot of tree plantation has happened, bamboo gardens, herb gardens, walking track. So this is where they were featured in local newspaper. Then we have again as a part of our children, again inspired by Greta, one of the child, of course the whole school, everybody, all kids were part of the Fridays for Future initiatives. Every Friday they said, we don't want after classes on Friday. So they all would say that we are going to the town hall, which is the city center, and they all contributed as a part of this one girl called Joanna. She was selected to the Copenhagen summit, which is the mayor summit for climate change. So again, you see that. And the next picture, of course, like Akshara was talking about, collaboration with Samarth. So we've also, I think, for quite a number of years, Samarth has been, he's inspired by children, and he inspires them even today. So our children run this initiative again called Chiaroscuro, which is an art fest, which happens every year. This year again, it's happening in November, but in a virtual space. So they again adopt certain SDGs, and Art Fest, they invite schools from across the world along the UN SDG themes, and they make it part of, initiatives like these. And apart from that, I think they've taken part of the UNICEF Pop-Up Festival, where they got kids from across the city just to make sure that they were integrated, inclusive into our school community. I think this was again a part of UN SDG 16 goal, where we saw, our children taking part in the anti-corruption oath, where they got about more than 1,500 people to take up the oath in a local forum. So lots of initiative which children have taken. So as part of when actually, COVID struck, so what happened? So, for us is we had to, again, in retrospect, I probably would divide it into 3 categories. How did we respond to it? How did we make a recovery? And then how did we reset it? So as a part of response, what happened was, I think, the pandemic was announced just with 4 hours of notice for all schools, I'm sure, including Akshara school. Akshara school. So what happened is we had to shut school. We just thought it's like this foot and mouth disease where, you close school for about 2 days, 3 days, and you come back. But we never knew that we are going to be closed for about 6 months. And imagine, during that time, as schools and as educators, there were a different level of stress we all went through. I mean, we had to think of course, keeping the well-being of our children in mind. Also, just getting your attention to all the pictures which you will see here are paintings and photographs of our children who have contributed. It is just a post-COVID situation where they have created artwork for that. So we also adopted a theme, if you see the good, feel great, so that, we could make sure that even if we are educators, we said, okay, this year it would be mass laws over blooms. So this is what we took care from even a response standpoint. Then, of course, when we came into the recovery stage, we had to go through, of course, as school educators, we went through a phase. I'm sure, like all schools, we are considered as some of the, a school which has a bit more affluent families. So, but we also take care of about 25% of children who are disadvantaged. So for us to bridge the technology device was quite a Herculean task. So we had to make sure, so since we had some iPad cards in our school, we ensured that that was accessible to children who probably were impacted because of COVID. Also, we initiated one more for the migrant population. We came across as a community, and we raised funds through the Legacy Cares community. I mean, as an initiative, and that was contributed to the migrants. But another thing which I feel proud as as a school, that we are not only talking about we having it in our curriculum, but I think the fact that we started living the SDG came in when SDG 8, that is decent work and economic growth, came into picture. Lots of companies, I think SDG got hit. We saw that government directive about schools not to pay fees. We started having big companies laying off people. Salary cuts were happening. So, but as a school, we said, no, we are going to honor all our people, all our jobs, no salary cuts. So today we feel very strong. We took it from the reserve, but we made sure that SDG 8, which talks about decent work and economic growth, we ensured our people were safe. Then how did reset happen? Yes, so I think students' response to the pandemic was extremely impressive, very inspiring. What happened this time, of course, because nobody was traveling, it was the most engaging summer break for our children. There was, of course, in the world, there was misinformation being spread, disinformation being spread. There was lots of high levels of anxiety, social isolation, which was going on. Even we as adults were feeling depleted in our energy, but our high school children's energy was infectious. We saw them taking up so many initiatives. And this is where Samarth came into our rescue. He just gave us a direction. And though SDG was part of our everyday's DNA, but when he came in, we started also, like Akshara was talking about, the Lockdown Learner Series, which came in as part of that. Again, we had Neil Walsh, who is the chief of UN, who came in and addressed a complete community of, and inspired so many children on that. Along with that, our children initiated another website called Una Voca. And as part of that, they ensured they were blogging, they were making sure people's well-being was taken care of. They started engaging people from the community to come and do sessions for, the school community. And of course, if you see this last girl here, that's Dhriti, she does every month on the second or third Sunday of the month where she goes on live to do a concert. Again, doing it for the UNODC as a part of that initiative, she's doing it. So tomorrow you can tune in to our website and you'll hear her to watch that. So this is how, as a school, we have, we try to do our level best so that we could ensure that UN, in the way we have it in a curriculum, we were actually living it. So thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And I'm just going to keep it brief, that it's commendable how the school has tried to keep each and every aspect in mind, not just the students, not just the teachers, but also the disadvantaged students. And coming to the youth action that is so prevailing, it's very inspiring. Thank you so much, ma'am. It is indeed inspiring. Thank you. Now I would request Mr. Sanjay Yadav, please go ahead.
Thank you, Akshara. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
And it's amazing to see the passion with which Ms. Geeta has shared her journey. And of course, this is a journey in which we are moving parallel. I recall, as Akshara told, and I always say that I consider myself as a student. So I bring one anecdote that when I started interacting with the practicing scientists in ISRO, they would emphasize on one thing, that whatever action you are taking, how does it impact the life of a common person? And if you know something, do you have the ability to simplify and explain it to the person that what you are doing and why are you doing? So this is how I started looking at things and putting logic to it for my own understanding. However, when it comes to explanation, it comes to action, it has to be mainly the action which convinces people that there is an advantage, there is something which has been achieved and something which can be further achieved. So if we look at SDGs, and if we look at SDG 4 in particular, because when we talk about education, when we talk about the role, there is a lot which has been achieved. So I want to share a bit of statistics in terms of what has been achieved and what is yet to be achieved, so that we are all aware of working together towards those sustainable goals. So very encouraging statistic says that total enrollment rate in developing regions reached about 91%, and worldwide drop rate has been dropped by almost half. Since the induction of SDGs, this is what I'm talking about, education scenario. Dramatic increase in literacy rate, and many more girls have been seen in school than ever before. And this figure is increasing on day-to-day basis. So for us, when we are sitting and deliberating at this platform, and especially belonging to the education fraternity, we all know that education is the most powerful and proven vehicle for sustainable development. So let us all ride together and let the people reap the benefit of it. Of course, the goal ensures that by 2030, all boys and girls should be able to complete their primary and secondary schooling, which is a very enthusiastic goal. It also aims at providing equal access to affordable vocational training, and to eliminate gender and wealth discrepancies so that every child feels equally empowered, and to provide a quality higher education also. So there are very well defined goals. Now, looking at what has been achieved, I talked about, but what needs to be achieved further? Let's have a clear picture in front of us. So there are about 57 million primary aged children who are still out of school. This is statistics which might have reduced, but the date that I've collected, this is what it says. In developing countries, 1 in 4 girls is not in school, which has improved. Maybe earlier it was 3 in 4 girls who were not in school, but today it has come to 1 in 4 girls, and that encourages us. That says that yes, keep on, keep doing the work, and we'll reach. And 50% of, this is a sad part of it, that 50% of out of school children at primary age, they live in conflict affected area. So that is where there are external factors which are affecting their education, and we need to reach out to them. uh, One more thing which needs to be seen seriously is, it's not just the enrollment, it's not just the statistics, but the outreach of education and its impact or its effect. So there are 103 million youth worldwide who still lack basic literacy skills. Now this needs to be built. 6 out of 10 children, which means roughly about 60%, adolescent and children, they are not achieving minimum level of proficiency in reading and mathematics. So this comes as part of what needs to be achieved, and we all need to come together, find solutions, work for achieving them. And of course, as it was very rightly talked about, that this COVID-19 period has created a complete different scenario. And the biggest impact was that our school system, our education system, I'm not talking only about India, but world over, it was mainly relying on classroom based schooling. And this situation has exposed the limitations, the weakness of that classroom based education system. And hence comes the role of technology, which everybody has been touched by, and we have understood that technology has come to our rescue. So now the hybrid or the blended mode, which needs to be reached out to people and even to different areas of the world, we will have to ride on the power of technology. There were three main things which I want to quickly brief here. The challenges we can talk about. One, of course, is the situation or crisis has made us identify the areas where investment is needed in order to achieve SDG 4 or to achieve global education goal. Uh, First one becomes, and I'm sure some of you might have experienced, is the accessibility to textbook. The moment a child is going to refer to something study at home, whether the textbook be it in printed or it is in digital content form, but availability of content is one of the important investment area which needs to be taken care of. And of course, second, on the inner side of it, when we look at it, then what is the content inside it and how relevant? Because today the books have been written for a school which is not for home study. It is teacher supported book. So we will have to look into redefining the content. Uh, Second thing is the better support for home based learning. Now, better support from home based learning, there is a statistics which reveals that a large number of students are not only dependent on what is being taught in school, but they are dependent on other sources, maybe taking help from their elder siblings, maybe the parents who are helping, or they are being tutored by somebody else, or they are using technological ways and means to get support for their understanding and learning. But however, we also have parents who are having their own low level of literacy and they lack the skills. So there, what can pitch the gap? If the sibling is not available, tutoring is not available, parents are not able to support, so can we again pitch in and bring the role of technology, bring the role of ICT, which will be able to support these children? So it is doable. Yes, the infrastructure has to be built. So the investment, second area of investment which will be required, will be investing in these ICT based instructions and its wider outreach so that it reaches out to many people. And then comes the third role, which again needs a lot of investment and it is already happening, is empowering the educators. Because educators were also prepared for a certain role and they have been living in and out of a particular mode of delivering information. So that investment has already started taking place, but still a long way to go. So these are few areas in which we keep working. We focus on these three so that SDG 4, which is given as a target to be achieved by 2030. In fact, this pandemic makes us believe that we have been empowered. We have suddenly found a new friend who is there to help us, and that is our information technology. And it is going to create the outreach, it is going to create the content, it is going to train the people, and ultimately larger benefit will happen. So this is what is future looking like. And I'm sure all the educators here, all the panelists, as well as those who are listening to me, agree to it and they acknowledge the power of information technology. And let's try and work together in making it more relevant and accessible for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure that the audience would agree with you completely. And it's also a matter of something I should appreciate the way that you have given hope, but at the same time, you've also opened the window to what is actually going on. Thank you, sir, for that. And now I would request Mr. Samarth Pathak to please come in and share his opening remarks with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akshara. Hope all of you have been safe and well. I'm very happy to have this opportunity to meet all of you today. We have such a distinguished audience joining us right now. We have policymakers, experts, educators, and of course, young people. And I'm honored to join my co-panelists and thank the Ahlcon School for convening all of us today. Of course, needless to say, Dr. Pandey, whose commitment to the SDGs is truly inspiring. Uh, And on behalf of the UN Office on Drugs and Crime, I'm delighted to be a part of this very important and special program, the SDG Mega Marathon, convened by the Ahlcon School in support of UNODC's Education for Justice initiative. Now, I call this program special because of three reasons. One, because it is being held during and despite COVID-19, which is the most pressing global challenge the world has ever seen. This year will be recorded in history books for sure. Two, because it marks the spirit of the SDGs, which is unity for peace and partnerships. And three, because it's a completely student and educators driven initiative, which is a need of the hour. As we have all seen by now, the COVID-19 crisis has caused a huge disruption. It has posed very serious risks to health and well-being, but also in other spheres. You have economy that has been impacted, you have education, you have social dynamics, you have human rights, and overall security and well-being of nations. There are also emerging social risks such as discrimination and exclusion, misinformation and disinformation, gender-based violence, cybercrime, mental health and anxiety, crime and social strife, among other things. And that is why it is very encouraging to see that in this new normal that we are living in, we are all trying our best to actually spread positivity through action by connecting with each other and by joining hands to help others. I think this has been the greatest learning of from this unprecedented situation that we are in, that partnerships for peace, partnerships for development, and partnerships for the SDGs are absolutely an imperative. But the most critical aspect is the need for young people to come to the forefront and take charge now, gain knowledge, engage on issues, speak up, take action, and lead the change. We have always heard a very cliched but true line that youth hold the key to the future, youth are the greatest hope that the planet has. But this is the time for all of us, and especially young people, to commit to strengthen peace, justice, and the sustainable development goals. It is also important for all of us to act for the rule of law, and especially for young people to do this. At UNODC, we believe that this cannot be achieved without education, and specifically education for peace and justice, which is in line with the United Nations principle of leaving no one behind and the Sustainable Development Goals. And in this context, our global flagship program, the Education for Justice initiative, has been actively engaging with students and educators at the primary, secondary, and university levels in schools as well as higher education institutions. We have developed a range of very interesting, free to use, peer reviewed, and tested educational material that can be used by teachers and students to develop an understanding of peace, understanding of the rule of law, and the sustainable development goals, especially SDG 16. And through values-based education and activity-based learning, our idea is to empower students and educators in playing more tangible roles in the social space and becoming responsible and proactive citizens who are catalyzing social change. Uh, for instance, one of our programs during this COVID-19 period has been the Lockdown Learner Series, where we have connected with students and teachers through free of cost interactive dialogues that bridge gender and socio-economic divides. The idea has been to engage with young people on social themes and promote youth action, give them a platform to actually work on themes related to peace and the SDGs. We have, of course, worked with the Ahlcon School as well as the Legacy School in Bangalore, and Dr. Pandey and Geeta Jayant's, Ms. Jayant's support has been truly phenomenal in taking this forward. We have explored themes like the impact of COVID-19 on vulnerable groups, discrimination, cybercrime, gender roles, etc. And these have received tremendous response from students, parents, as well as educators. And we are looking to scale up this initiative to reach more communities, rural communities, as well as students with limited, technological devices and access. And we do count on support from the audience for this. If you have any leads, if you want to collaborate, please connect with us. So I will conclude by saying that to build back better from COVID-19, we do need a renewed commitment to the Sustainable Development Goals. We must remember that this is the decade of action. 2030 is just 10 years away. And we must integrate our efforts and join hands for the Sustainable Development Goals. This is the moment for us to collaborate. And for this, we need three Ys: youth engagement, youth commitment, and youth action. Thank you for your time, and I wish the SDG Mega Marathon and the Ahlcon Public School full success and look forward to strengthening our collective efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for talking about youth engagement and the importance of how youth action should be so active right now. Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, I would request Mr. Ashok Pandey to come in and give his valuable remarks, please.
Okay, thank you, Akshara. You have been doing fantastically well. I'm so delighted to be part of this panel and this particular program. And I have been watching these four distinguished panelists who have spoken. There is a pattern in what they have said. Ms. Gail began with a spiritual, peace enticing message that what SDG is actually all about, and how it is intricately related to our life, to our being, and to our living together. I think a profound message. And then followed by Geeta and her energetic, enthusiastic, the work that she's doing with the young children is truly remarkable. And then Sanjay, true to his background of being a science student and a researcher, he presented a very clinical analysis of SDGs, goals, objectives, how far we have traveled, and what needs to be done. And then comes Samarth, who represents the youth, and his organization, UNODC, is in the forefront of working for SDGs. And I liked his formula of youth, youth, and youth. Youth for engagement, youth for commitment, and youth for action. I think, and therefore, it is a perfect background for me to move on with one conclusion, that SDGs are perhaps the best known and most frequently talked about societal challenges which the entire world community has to meet. I take it for the young children, since a lot of people from the school community are in this audience, that this is a value system that the young have to live with. We as adults might have committed a lot of sins, but the young have to take SDGs, these 17 goals, as their own value system. And they have already shown that they have zero tolerance against injustice. They have zero tolerance against inequalities. They have zero tolerance against hunger, power, lack of educational and economic activities. And therefore, it gives me immense pleasure and satisfaction, and a lot of hope that there is power in the hands of these young people to make a change which we have been only talking about for many, many years. And therefore, I will confine in next 2 to 3 minutes to one very interesting thing. We have all heard about the power of technology, the power of new technologies, and the power of artificial intelligence. We have known artificial intelligence only through the lens of health and medicine, but artificial intelligence is influencing every walk of life that we can conceive. And the best part is that out of the 17 goals, they have been mapped. The McKinsey Global Institute has done a study, and they have identified that there are 160 applications of artificial intelligence which are directly connected to the sustainable developmental goals. And the good thing is that the goal number 3 about health, 4 about education and gender equality, goal number 16, which is very close to the heart of Samarth and to us also. Between these 4 or 5, half of those applications are concentrating. It means there are 80 applications of artificial intelligence which can help, which can speed up and catalyze the attainment of sustainable developmental goals. So I'll quickly tell, demystify how artificial intelligence can help. 2 examples. So artificial intelligence driven software can give us early warning system signals if a poaching is happening against an animal in a forest. So just imagine the reach of artificial intelligence. On the other hand, countries like India, a large population of young children are suffering from malnutrition. We don't know the statistics. We don't know what kind of malnutrition is, but artificial intelligence driven software can exactly identify what is the nature and extent of this malnutrition. And if that can be identified at a scale, then you can understand that how fast the remedies can be provided. So that is the power of artificial intelligence. And now the power of artificial intelligence and power of the youth and their imagination and innovation can reset the speedometer of attainment of SDGs. You see, we have got less than 10 years to 2030. COVID has given us a setback, and therefore we have to take a pause and we have to take a new resolve that no, we will not be toppled down by this setback, and we will also not make it an excuse, and we will cover up the loss with the help of new technologies, and we will reach the goal and will attain these goals within the time limit which has been set by the United Nations. So I think that is the extent to which we have to work, we have to resolve, we have to sit down, and I think it is doable, it is possible, but we will have to work with double or triple the speed than what we thought we would be working with. So I rest my case, Akshara, with these points, and maybe I'll come back later in the question answer session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for, in a way, summing all the points and also talking about the youth involvement once again and specific SDGs and also AI, the importance of AI. Thank you, sir. And as for the audience, I hope the audience is taking the opportunity at each and every step to ask relevant questions and making it a challenging task for us to take up a few questions for the day. Moving ahead, I would like to put forward a question for each of the panelists, starting with Ms. Gail Davis. And there will also be a poll question for the audience to participate in and to express their school of thought. I request the tech team to kindly release the poll. Audience, the question is up. Please keep it interactive. Let's keep it 2 ways. The question is up on your screen. Please give in your answers. Yes, it's going to be there for a long time. I can see a lot many of you answering. Thank you so much. Let's keep it interactive, everyone. Yes. Lots of statistics coming in. A lot of percentages. Great. Great, great. Please keep this going. We just don't want, we want to hear from the perspective of the audience as well, indirectly. And this is one way. This is one method. Yes. Yes, the percentage. And the result is up. For this question, 41% people agree that adaptability is one of the skills that a leader should possess to sustain in the post-COVID era. That's amazing. Thank you, audience. Please keep it interactive in this similar manner. We'll be putting forward more questions ahead. Thank you so much. Coming to Gail, ma'am. Ma'am, as you know, with the coming of the pandemic, the world is facing the worst public health and economic crisis. Which steps can prevent the crisis from becoming a roadblock in achieving the vision of 2030? Could you please comment on the same?
When what, can you ask that question again, please?
Sure, sure. Ma'am, according to you, what steps can prevent the crisis from becoming a roadblock in achieving the vision of 2030? What steps can we have to prevent the crisis?
This is a very, very hard question because you cannot prevent the steps of a roadblock, okay, from happening. But the poll question that was asked is adaptability, okay? Adaptability. That's
Right.
the most important thing.
Right.
It has been said that this is a new normal, but it actually is not a new normal. It is something that has unfortunately caught the world off guard, okay? But what we can do, let's just suppose that we're in an adaptability place that we have to adapt to this crisis of being in a semi-lockdown for the rest of our lives, and that we have to be online, let's say for 8 hours of our day. If you're a student, you have to be online 8 hours a day for your learning. If you are at home, working from home, as most of us are with the UN or other companies, adaptability of the 8-hour day workday online. Then we need to adapt to that in our learning ability online. So if, for instance, it is school, okay? There's something that we must look at from a school's perspective, as Ahlcon has already shown, which is to have the teachers and the parents educated, as Ahlcon has done, working with the children at home, okay? So that the students and the parents understand that the students will be at home with them. We need to integrate ways in which the students can have socialization with other students online. The ways in which at least maybe 1 or 2 days a week, the students are able to engage with one another somewhere, even if it has to be a physical distancing situation, if this is going to be ongoing for the next, let's say, 2 to 10 years. We do not know because COVID is still something of an enigma to us, okay? So I would suggest we find ways to, not only with vaccines, but other ways in which Ahlcon has already demonstrated and will continue to demonstrate that we have at least students and teachers and parents come together at least once or twice a week where they can see each other, engage with each other, and as Mr. Pandy said, learn different types of technology from artificial intelligence to other innovations that the students can create together. And I think by the parents being engaged continuously with the teachers in doing that, I think that is one way we can avoid. The second thing is that with the SDGs and the UN and all the multi-stakeholders, meaning the different areas of society of industry, come together and ongoingly teach each and every citizen around the world about the importance of their actions, the way they can acclimate their actions in everyday living, to acclimate to this way that we are on lockdown, some of the ways that we can learn to expand ourselves during the lockdown. How can we expand our education or, continue our education? We have a master's degree. How can we learn further into accommodating a PhD status? If we have our bachelor's, accommodating a master's degree, how we can do that during the lockdown with online learning and in ways of bringing that into experiential learning outside the computer, engaging with each other, again, in a physical distancing approach. I think that's what's important because we don't know where this is going to go.
Right, you're absolutely right.
If I may add one last thing too,
Sure, sure.
art is a very important thing. And when we speak of art, it's one of the things that the Creators 2030 does. We look at ways in which art becomes the self-expression of anyone. And art is inclusive of innovation and technologies to be utilized. So if we use it in a way of climate, we can use artists to work together with scientists. As an example, we've had artists that we've worked with who have used sculpture to work with people in oceans, ocean scientists, to use sculptures to place at the bottom of ocean floors where coral can regrow around those sculptures. So that's an idea of how art can be utilized in that regard. Or we can use film to utilize short documentaries on this of where climate currently is and what are some of the innovations or the steps that everyday citizens can take even in during their lockdown, whether it's gardening, whether it's riding a bike and so forth. Those are some of the things in which we can do at that time. And also looking at our bodies. We are what we eat. Begin to look at growing our food or buying more produce, okay? That we cook with fresh produce rather than any processed foods from cans or anything like that, through gardening in our backyards and creating farms or vertical farms, hydroponics and things of that nature, because they say we are what we eat. So these are ways in which, and it also brings family together, which is another form of well-being when we're cooking together and doing things of that nature. So I hope that answered your question.
Sure did. Thank you, Mom. Thank you very much. Tech team, to please release the poll for the audience once again. Yes, and the question is up, everyone. Please keep it interactive as you did previously. Look forward to more percentage of people. Maximum participation this time. Yes, you can see the percentage rising. That's great. Thank you, everyone, for participating like this. It really means a lot. It's great. I see maximum participation this time. Thank you. Stats are growing. That's great. Has it stopped? Yes, it has. And community participation is the answer that the audience says that individuals, the method that individuals can apply for helping and achieving the vision of Agenda 2030. That's great. Please keep it coming, audience. We really need your interaction here. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to come to Geeta Ma'am. Geeta Ma'am, today's youth is gradually prioritizing and understanding the vision of 2030. How much, as per you, the involvement of youth would have evolved by post-COVID? How much, according to you?
Yeah, thank you, Akshara.
Thank you, ma'am.
As educators, many times you say, okay, we are away from school and academics is suffering. But what I would say, COVID probably has given more lessons than what a textbook or notebook would have given. Children have learned more life skills. They've learned how to be agile, how to be adaptable, how to probably cope with stress. And still, you are with your parents, with family. That's the only community you are with. And you're still learning to work around with that. And of course, using technology, you're able to connect with people. So I personally feel we have repurposed education, but learning continues.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping it short and absolutely crisp. Thank you very much. The next poll, please. And the next poll is up, everyone. Once again, maximum participation, please. Really keeps us connected to this method. Wow. Okay. This is great. There's such speed. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, audience. Thank you, participants. The poll is increasing. This is great. Let us keep it coming. This is amazing. We really have an enthusiastic audience here with us, a really active one. And the answer is digitally equipped era. 50% people say that what will be the impact of COVID-19 on education sector? I think the question got spaced right here. That's all right. I think it was about a digitally equipped era. And I think the audience thinks that that's how it's going to be in the future. Okay. Moving forward. Sanjay sir, with the COVID-19 coming into play, how do you envision the coming years taking more giant digital leaps?
Thank you, Akshara. As we have acknowledged our youngsters who are born in the age of technology, so they are already empowered. We say that right from the childhood, they have been using gadgets and devices, and it comes so naturally to them. And this is something which, when meets the experience of people like us, we come with experience of life. So we visualize the situation, we can foresee the effect of any action which has to be taken, that this is how it is going to impact. And if we have a collaboration between our youth, we utilize their innovation, we utilize their stronghold on technology, and our experience adds to the social emotional learning for our children. It gives them that resilience, it teaches them to uh, negotiate with health conditions, learning life ways, and creating that balance between emotional intelligence and mental resilience. So, this is what will happen. Of course, technology will take a role, but there is a software of the technology, and that software lies in your heart. So, that has to be connected to people. So let's create a blend where we bring in newer versions of technology with the help of our youngsters, and we give them a heart to feel for the society. And I'm sure the way is going to be wonderful ahead.
Absolutely sure, sir. Thank you so much. The next poll, please. And here is the next question, everyone. Audience, participants, please give in your inputs. And wow, stats just keep growing. That's amazing. Keep it coming, everyone. We really need the energy right here. This is great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you once again. The answers are growing. That's great. Great. That is great. Thank you. Thank you, audience. And I think the poll come to an end. Yes. So the question was, which of the SDGs from the following require the most urgent action? And the audience thinks, 40% of the audience thinks that climate change requires the most urgent action at the moment. And thank you, audience, for keeping it interactive once again, indirectly so. Samart, sir, the next question is for you. I was going through the UN website and I came across a statistic that was quite striking. I quote, COVID-19 implications further threaten global peace and security, unquote. So, how do you feel that does it act like a roadblock, once again, in achieving the vision of 2030?
Well, we are seeing a lot of. I mean, that's a very interesting remark because COVID-19, as I said in my remarks as well, it has impacted so many different spheres. In fact, I was just going through the comments. For instance, one of Mr. Aditya Bhutani says that hasn't COVID-19 had a good impact on environment? Something around that because environment is getting cleaner. So we have had all sorts of responses. We are feeling different things, but one thing is clear: COVID-19 has not just impacted the health space. It's not just a health issue, but it's also impacted a lot of other things, which is why I think we are talking today. One of the most important things that it has affected, in my opinion and in our opinion, is peace, justice, and strong institutions, SDG 16, which is critical for all the other goals as well. For climate change, for example, you need strong institutions to be there to take action. You need a peaceful, enabling environment where people can come together to create change, whether it's on climate, whether it's on education, health, anything else. So it has had a lot of impact. We see issues like discrimination taking place. You have a lot of, I would say, the social dynamics, how communities behave with each other, how people behave with each other. All of that has been, come under stress. if you also look at the household, all of us are staying in the house for a longer period of time than we used to. It has also created pressures, consciously or unconsciously, on the family dynamics. So, which is, I think, it explains things. It explains things like addiction problems at home, or increased mental health and anxieties. Domestic violence has spiked. There are reports that suggest that. So peace has been affected by COVID-19. When you say that, has it affected the 2030 agenda? Of course, it has come as a major disruptor, but it has also come as an opportunity for all the stakeholders to realize that, okay, now we have to put our house in order. There are 10 years left. This is the decade of action. We should rebuild, build back better, and leave no one behind in our responses. I think that sort of consciousness should come in, and I'm sure that we'll be able to make progress, make headway. We see that there's so much commitment from the education space. For example, they have responded so quickly. Healthcare has responded, or it's trying to respond. Young people are now increasingly aware of these issues. We have been working a lot with young people over the past few months, and we realize that there's a renewed commitment, great awareness, a lot of ideas that when we were young we could not uh, think about those sort of ideas. So I think there is hope, and we should be hopeful and optimistic, but we should take stock. We should come together, understand what the weaknesses are, what the shortcomings are, and address that as we move forward.
Very true, sir. Thank you so much. I request the tech team to please release the next poll. And the question is up, everyone. Please keep the same energy as previously. Okay. We already have the statistics rising. This is amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. This is great. Keep it coming, everyone. We really need to understand your perspective. We really need to. And I think poll is still rising. Yeah. Yeah. Still going. Still being decided. This is great. I love the enthusiasm right here. And the poll has come to a stop. The question was, what should be the main focus of the education system post-COVID-19? And 51% agree that it should be life skills. And that is one foundation right there. Thank you so much, audience. Now, before I come to Ashok sir, I would like to put forward a statement by OECD 2030, Future of Education and Skills Project. They said, and I quote, "We need to replace old education standards with an educational framework that combines knowledge with the 21st century skills of creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration," unquote. With this, my question for you, Ashok sir, is that how do you feel that in a time of this pandemic and post this, what aspects should the education system focus on with regard to the 21st century skills?
Yeah, Akshara,
Yes,
I
sir.
think the quote that you put forth right now and your poll result, I think both are in complete alignment. You see, I'm delighted that the audience that we have here is so enlightened and so sensitive that all the poll results have followed a pattern. You see, this pandemic, already there is a prediction that if we do not take precaution, probably the next pandemic will be in the form of climate change difficulties, right? The adversities of climate change, as we call it. And in that poll, you see your audience said that, yes, climate change is one of the major problems. And then in the leadership qualities, when the question was asked, the overwhelming majority said that adaptability is, and embracing change is the skill that we should have. And your last poll says 80% of the people answered between life skills requirement and well-being requirement. And even when we talk a lot about curriculum and employability, your audience at least have rejected that, you see. less than 10% have voted for it. And therefore, there is a very strong case to assume that the skills that we require are learning to learn, you see, learning to be, learning to do, you see, and learning to live together. I think if these four components become part of our curriculum, part of our life skills, and part of our concern for everybody. You see, this pandemic, one audience, somebody has asked, has this pandemic been very kind to nature? What the participant is trying to suggest is that the nature is flourishing and nature itself is breathing free, right? And therefore, our skill will be put to use only when we become very sensitive to ourselves, to our needs, to our friends, to the people, and to the nature itself. And then only the divinity will come in each one of us, and rest of the things will be taken care of. And OECD especially is talking about that only, you see, that the skills that brings us together, skills that help us communicate with each other with care and compassion, and the skills that will make this world a peaceful, just, inclusive place. I think that is the skill that each one of us require. Akshara.
Very right, sir. Thank you so much. A big thank you to each and every panelist who has not only given me an insight, but the participants, the audience as well, into how various sectors and societies were functioning pre-COVID, currently, and how the world would appear to be post-COVID. And a big thank you to the audience, of course. Let's not forget that. Now, I would like to move towards being more specific with the questions. Since our webinar revolves around the theme, how COVID-19 can be the great reset towards global sustainability, I would request all the panelists, starting with Ms. Gail, to share their foresight of what is it going to be like post-COVID for achieving global sustainability.
I really love this question, Akshara. It's one of my favorite questions. And I'll tell you why I love it. And I'm going to make this very short. Post-COVID, this pandemic has shown us, first of all, I believe in all generations working together. That is the way it always has been. And then we as a society began to separate young versus old versus middle age. We always worked together as a society. And this is no different. We learn from one another. In the Creators 2030, we teach each other, that the youth know that we learn from them as well as they learn from us. And then we take it to the next level, which is there is no young versus old. We're all partners together. So post-COVID is going to look like, one, from a mental health perspective, which is Sustainable Development Goal 3. We have all been in what they say is a lockdown, okay? And in some cases, as a post-lockdown, post-COVID, we will have learned that we will have been able to live life with less. We do not need the latest shoes or the latest materialistic things. We will have learned what is important to us, number one. We will have learned to live with less, okay? We will have learned to not avoid psychologically the things that we are dealing with. We will have learned to connect as a family again. And I would hope that we will have learned where technology serves us and not replaces us as human beings. I think this is one of the most important things we shall have learned, that technology is assistive. It allows us to connect as we are connecting now, but it is not the placement of life. We do not replace life with technology. I will also thought that we've learned to appreciate one another as human beings. And I think that the issues that are coming into play around the world where cultures are engaged with each other to better understand one another. Okay, we will have created dialogues in which we will understand where people have felt marginalized or didn't have enough. I think the biggest thing that this pandemic has shown us is that we are all the same, no matter what culture we come from, and that we all need water to drink. We all need our basics, basic life skills. So I think in that regard, post COVID, we will learn to live with each other in a different way. We will learn to appreciate each other. And we will learn that all levels of society can come together to find solutions to daily issues that we all face. So those are the things I think that we'll be taking with us. And that art has become a place that we've learned to heal. It'll be a place where we have learned that we can use that as a way of releasing any tensions or anxieties that we have. And places like the United Nations, who is really reaching out to the public at large, opening up their doors online to find solutions that will support one another. And I think that countries and people in different communities will reach out to one another as well to share their thoughts with each other on how the best practices to live, daily living. I think this is the most important thing. I don't think it will be the employability post-COVID. It will be how we live our lives. And the most important thing, I think, is in terms of climate, we will have learned that we do not need to take any more from the earth than we have. We'll learn to grow our food in our homes. And where there are collective communities, they will have places where they can also grow their food together. These are some of the things where it might sound unheard of. I think it's going to become common practice. So that is my take on the future, and that schools will have online learning part of the week while also going into the physical buildings the other part of the week. I believe that will become a mainstay, and I think that's actually a good thing as well. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Gail, ma'am. It was indeed a delight hearing your perspective. Geeta, ma'am, if you could please go ahead.
Right. For me, of course, I just would like to. I heard Mr. Sanjay talk about statistics, and even I did look up some statistics, where we stand right now. One of the things which came up, which was disturbing, that, about 166 countries, children from 166 countries with about 1.5 billion, and about 87% of children are no more going to school, the physical space. So, of course, my dream is everybody should go back to school, interact with everybody, have those high fives and hugs, which you miss with children. So that's definitely one of my hope and wish, and hopefully that should happen soon. Along with that, another report which I was reading was the social progressive imperative, of course, that was released before the before the COVID, and it spoke about that. Despite, COVID hadn't happened, but they were talking about that we might not reach the sustainable development goal of 2030, which 193 countries signed up for, even till 2073. And that used to disturb us. So we used to say, oh, with so much effort. So we went back and looked at, where do countries stand? What is it that is getting all us back? So when we looked at the stats, I saw Denmark, which is in 2018 was at 98.8%. And Germany and Japan were again in the 96, 98%. And where were we as India? Of course, Africa was around the 40% progress index. So India was at 64%. And the fact that, by 2030, where do we come in? It looked that we were going to be reaching around 71%, whereas the world was going to be reaching about 75%. I think it's around that much. So, that used to think, okay, what is it that we are not doing right? And also the fact that some of the things, other disturbing facts which also came up, that which are the things which are not going to drive us to reach the sustainable development goal. And of the five ones, I made a note of it, one was poverty, SDG goal 1, SDG 5, which was gender equality, 10 was reduced inequality, grade 11 was sustainable cities. And also, I think as Dr. Pandey was talking about, 60% of, again, so many cities, 60% because of this COVID, we have been able to have pollution which is under control. So that was the good part of it. And SDG 16, which Samarth has been talking to us about. And we said, oh, we really need to be working towards more of peace and justice, just to get that trust back. And as Gail said, we need to be valuing our relationships. We should be about, getting the balance between nature and human. And we need greater collaboration. The whole lot of stakeholders, we should come together. Of course, the fact that we are not able to communicate, we are not able to travel, but I think it wouldn't have happened that so many people from across the city or across the world have come together today on a portal like this. So it will definitely have lots of collaboration so that we are able to sustain this development goals. So that's going to be my dream.
Thank you, ma'am. I really appreciate your point of view. Sanjay, sir, please come in.
So when I start looking at, of course, I'll agree with one very strong statement, which I believe you may go faster alone, but you go further when you go together. The collaboration is going to be so significant because this pandemic has already taught us the power of being together. Today, nobody is thinking of a solution alone for themselves, but they have started connecting with each other simply as human beings. We have started looking at nature as something which we don't have to overuse or abuse, because that's going to be the way of life, and we need to sustain. As Ashok sir had said, that we need to apologize with our children that yes, we have already taken away the resources from our next generation. So how do we create a system? Of course, what has been taken away cannot be given back, but then how do we create a system which will create or which will make this place worth living for them for years to come? And above all, when we look at the human quotient, like I was giving an example, think of a parent who is not skilled or who is not so well educated to support the child. But when it comes to their social emotional learning, when it comes to their experience of life, they are so rich. They are so practical. We talk about experiential learning. They are wonderful people to share those thoughts with us. Art integration, as Miss Gail has been talking about. In fact, I have always, whenever I have had an opportunity, I bow down in front of people who have their ability in performing art. Why? I see it as the blessings from the divine, and they are the ones who are able to connect. We simply say that music has no language. It can hold the hearts together. So these are the real values of life. Somewhere in that so-called rat race of life, maybe people had started looking at only one side of moving and ignoring so many other components. The situation has made everybody realize the holistic development and the things which we need to value more. And I hope, I very strongly hope, and I appeal everyone that let those values which have been learned now not die down after the lockdown goes over. Rather, retain them and learn to move forward with them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your foresight. Samarth, sir.
Yes,
Go ahead.
Akshara. Actually, while the other panelists, of course, have said so many important things, and I don't think that there's any need to add. But I was just jotting down a few points actually, and I would like to just share them with you. So I believe that as we look at the post-COVID phase, we do need to realize that this is the decade of action, and we must take the learnings from COVID-19 and work together. I mean, collaboration is one word that has come up a lot. The previous panelists have said it. But I would also add that we need greater youth engagement, youth involvement for the future. Youth have to start talking about the future they want, the action, and then take action, to build the future that they want. That is one. So a focus on young people is very important. The second thing would be developing an empathy for others. I think empathy has been missing a lot. I think we need to realize that without empathy, you cannot really achieve anything. And the key thing in the SDGs is empathy towards each other. The third thing would be a commitment in no matter in what we do. I mean, whatever actions we take, we must commit to leave no one behind in our actions. Our actions should not only reach, a specific group or a specific audience. We must try our best to make our responses inclusive and ensure that they leave no one behind. Uh, the other thing would be, of course, to reach out. We talk a lot, we share our ideas, but now is the time to actually turn our ideas into action and actually reach out with some activities, programs, interventions that we can do together, of course, with collaboration. uh, the fourth thing would be, of course, a realization that we have one planet, one life, one place to live. We all have to live here. We are all in this together. Whether dangers come, whether there are global problems, global issues, they impact all of us somewhat equally. And nobody's, I mean, we cannot leave anyone behind, and we must realize that our well-being lies in working with each other, in helping each other, and taking steps for each other. And finally, I think the post-COVID-19 phase actually emphasizes the need for greater focus on education for justice, education for peace, and education on SDGs. So it's not just about schooling, it's actually about building a mass awareness sort of an initiative where more and more people can be actively educated on SDGs, peace, and justice related matters. So that would be my key takeaway.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that. Ashok, sir, please go ahead.
Yes, so I have an advantage, Akshara, that the best that could be said about post-COVID scenario has already been said, and therefore I'm taking a risk by bringing in some kind of diversity here. When we started with COVID in the month of March or so, we thought that we will run through it like a sprint runner, right? And suddenly we realized that no. By June or July, we thought that no, it is a long distance of 1500 meters or 2000 or something like that. But my sense is that now we are more or less into a marathon race, okay? So really a post-COVID or pre-COVID is going to be a little blurred. And therefore, I'm taking an analogy that like a marathon runner, first of all, we have to have perseverance, okay? And we have to have mental and physical and emotional endurance, as we call it, right? And then we have to have a strategy, which is very important, right? Even if the period elongates in some sense, I think our strategies must be in place as to how we deal with our own problems, our own adversities, and how we help each other. Like someone talked about empathy. Gail said something beautiful, that we have to come back to nature, you see. Let's grow food for ourselves and let's communities come together and grow food, I mean, it's a very, very profound message. So these could be the strategies, right? And then the last thing is that, look, everybody has to have an equal playing field, right? So the strategy must necessarily have an equal playing field. So equality has to play a big role, right? And if you talk of education particularly, we were struggling with a lot of inequalities. And this COVID has exposed another inequality in terms of digital inaccessibility by many. So some strategies have to come in place. And the Indian Prime Minister a few days ago, while inaugurating the session of the Parliament, he said, COVID is there, but we also have our kartabya, which means we have our duty, we have our dharma. So as an individual, as the citizen of this world, the COVID is there, but we also have some duties to perform. And if everybody becomes conscious of that duty and that sense of belongingness, I think there is a hope, and the hope is that we will reach the destination. You know, the beauty of optimism is that it connects us with the future. If there is no future, optimism is useless. And if you only talk of optimism and we do not only talk of future and do not move, optimistically with the strategies in place, probably will not reach the destination. So I think these are some of my thoughts. And in totality, I am somehow foreseeing better times. I'm foreseeing more equal world. I'm foreseeing a more peaceful world. And let me end here. Since we are talking of SDGs, I think the UN Secretary General must be quoted here. And right in the beginning of COVID, he said that the fury of COVID has taught us one lesson. And that lesson is that the need for conflict and war has become futile, you see. So I think that is the best lesson that we have learned out of COVID. Thank you, Akshara.
Thank you, sir. I really must say that I appreciate how the core values were given an important role here, and hearing the foresight coming from leaders always gives hope for action. Thank you very much, everyone. Now, coming to the last segment of the webinar, I would be taking up a few questions from the chat box since we have time constraints. So a few questions from the chat box will be taken up that has been raised by our ever enthusiastic audience. If you'd allow me, I would like to put forward the questions for the panel here. The first question I would like to direct to Ashok sir. It's for the
Oh,
audience that, yes.
oh my God. Okay, okay. I was so happy that I'll be the last one. Okay, go ahead. What is the question? Yeah.
Yes, sir. They are asking that how do you think India can bring technology into the education sector more powerfully in the long run, even after the pandemic ends?
Yeah, so I think I have already given a hint. The artificial intelligence is coming in education in a big way. But let me pose a question before this audience. You know, what is the purpose of education? The purpose of education is equity and excellence for everybody. And that will ensure success and sustainability for the society. And therefore, how we can bring equity, how we can neutralize the background and the baggages of the past of the learner so that those baggages do not come in the way of learning. So what technologies will be able to give choices to the learners, to be able to tell them that what is your problem and how you can remedy the problem. So optimizing the learning opportunities and choices. I think that is the role of technology. And a lot of work is happening. And I'm also, let me add here, that the teachers are working very hard, but teachers' efficiency is to be maximized also. And therefore, if a technology is available, where the mundane work that we do and a lot of energy and time is consumed, and if technology frees us from those mundane work, our productivity will increase. So imagine with improved efficiency and with improved knowledge of the need of the children, that combination will ensure a better learning for every child. So that is the role of technology, and I'm sure we are up to a great success there.
Yes, sir. I'm sure the question has been answered quite well.
Thank
The
you.
next question, I would like to direct it to Samad, sir. Sir, the audience asks that we do say that the education is accessible for children, but due to this pandemic, the children are facing many problems related to health as well. So they are asking certain pointers through which we can solve or we can look into that situation, into the part of the health and well-being particularly.
That's a very interesting question, Akshara. And I believe that when we talk about health, primarily, I think you're talking about mental health right now, mental health issues. Of course, COVID-19 is also impacting children a lot. So the first priority is to ensure that they stay safe, they stay at home or wherever they are and take due precautions. But during this pandemic, of course, we've seen a lot of like mental health issues coming up. Now, when we started this, the Lockdown Learners Initiative, that was the first thing, that we have to reach out to young people who are at home suddenly, and some of them may be feeling anxious. They're not, engaged in anything right now because the schools were immediately shut, and the immediate responses had not come in from the schools. So we wanted to fill in that gap, and this was, of course, based across your digital divides, because there were so many students who did not have access to technology. They could not come on Zoom and all these apps. So we still tried our best to reach out to as many educators as possible, created WhatsApp groups, created informal networks as well, to engage students on these basically broader themes like SDGs and peace and other issues. But side by side, we also kept a track of how they were coping with the problem. We dedicated entire sessions to how students were addressing the problem, the COVID-19 issue, what was going on in their minds. It was a great learning for us, because we realized that some of the issues that sometimes we talk about, all of us, gender issues or economic problems or digital divides, etc., they were actually happening in some households. And so we managed to create a positive network of support, which was peer led. So friends helping friends, young people helping each other. There was a like Didi Bhaiya concept, where a student from, say, 9th standard could offer positive support to some of their juniors, and we kind of enabled that sort of dialogue through our initiative. But coming to health, of course, it's a very important issue, mental health especially. There have been, because your family members are impacted by the economic issues due to COVID-19, or even other things like addiction problems at home during the lockdown. Uh, Mental health has been hit among children. And the idea is actually for all of us to, and especially educators, to sort of keep a track of the well-being of children, well-being of students, and empower young people, to take care of each other. Tell them that if you see any warning signs, report to us, talk to people, talk to your juniors, talk to your younger siblings and other students, and create a positive network. I think that is something that is very critical right now.
Absolutely agree, sir. It's very important in today's time, especially to become mental health advocates and speak out about the same. Right, absolutely. Since there is time constraint, I would be directing the last and the third question from the audience for Geeta ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So the question for you from the audience is that at this point of time, should we think of the present over the future, or prefer to decide or focus directly on the future instead of the present?
Hi, Akshara. I don't know, my network is a little shaky, so I'll be off video for some
Absolutely.
time. I know. So I said,
No problem, ma'am.
for us, I think we will have to focus on the future, as Samarth was talking about. Children's mental well-being, that needs to be taken care. Everybody, I think everybody is feeling depleted with the current situation because we were not all prepared for. So I think first is to tackle our present, and then with all measures, what we were talking about, keeping AI, what Dr. Pandey was talking about, if we can embed all that into our current, only then is we can plan for our future better. I don't know if I could be heard because it is seeming a little shaky. The net.
You're absolutely audible.
Okay.
Completely.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you're adding something more? That's all?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And with that, we come to the end of the Q&A round from the audience. Thank you very much, panelists, and also a big thank you to the audience for keeping it as interactive as possible. With this, we come to the end of the webinar, and I am positive that today we all will take back with us a bag filled with the awareness regarding the times we are going through, that how important it is to incorporate SDGs in today's education system. From time to time, leaders make statements that get written in the books of history, and from time to time, the youth, the children ask questions that get written in the minds of each individual who is unable to answer them. I hope this webinar provides answers to the many unanswered questions, hope more than doubt, curiosity more than the stagnance of the thought process. With this, I, Akshara Nair, President Student Council, Ahlcon International School, take leave as your moderator for the day. A big thank you to all the panelists who are an inspiration for the generations to come, and to the audience who are change makers or are to become the change makers the world would see of one day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
But Akshara, you cannot take leave. You cannot take leave without accepting our sincere thanks, first of
Sincere
all.
thanks.
And congratulations to you for a wonderful moderation.
Thank you.
And I mean, you are clearly a star destined to shine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so
And-
much.
Congratulations,
Heartiest congratulations,
Sanjay.
Akshara.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Congratulations, Sanjay,
This has
Akshara,
been
and the whole
directly hearing
team.
from all of
Yes.
you.
Thank you, Samarth.
And
Your smile has stolen the day for all of us, Samarth. Everybody is talking about your smile.
Oh.
Miss Gail, thank you very much for your very nice and kind contribution. We are absolutely delighted. And Geeta, thank you for your energy and enthusiasm, and absolutely thrilled to be with all of you. Congratulations,
It's a delight to
Sanjay,
hear all of
once
you.
again.
Thank you so much.
and
So-
Akshara,
Everyone.
Akshara, I just
I-
wanted to say.
I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
like
I
to
think-
thank Ashok sir also for all his guidance and his mentoring.
you,
And this
thank
is
you.
what brings SDG Festival 5.0 from Ahlcon International. And this is just